Hi, Mick McQuaid here for iste782 with a data visualization workshop using Tableau. So this is a getting started exercise that comes straight from the Tableau website. So you can always go back over this by visiting the learning portion of the site. Now the version that I got from there was for 10.4. I've updated it a little bit for 10.5. And then the current version now is 2018.1, but we still have 10.5 in the lab, so I'm doing this video using 10.5, and I won't switch to 2018.1 until the labs update. And we're going to use an Excel spreadsheet called globalsuperstore.xls, and that is in my courses under content, so start by downloading it from there. And I want to caution you that there is another Superstore spreadsheet called Sample Superstore that comes with Tableau, and that's not what I'm talking about here. You're going to need the global superstore.xls from my courses content. So download that, and then download a trial copy of Tableau. And students can get a special license at a reduced cost or for free, but don't worry about that right now. The trial copy will serve our purposes. So then open the application, and this is what you'll see. A screen with headings that include Connect, Open, and Discover. And look briefly at More Servers. Where's Servers? Here we go. So those are servers that you can access data from. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can access data. Then go back to the main menu. You have to press this twice to get back to the main initial screen, I should say. Okay, now I'd like you to open the Global Superstore spreadsheet. So you're going to have to click on Microsoft Excel and figure out where you have downloaded it. I think in my case it's just going to go, yeah, it's going to go right to the folder where I downloaded it. And now you're in something called the data connection window. And from here you can see that there are 3 worksheets in the Excel file: the orders worksheet, the people worksheet, and the returns worksheet. You could, of course, open it in Excel and look at it and see that same information from that. So I'd like you to choose the orders worksheet, and the way that you're going to do that is by dragging it to the canvas, which is the large white rectangle that says Drag Sheets here. And you'll see the first few rows of the worksheet, which is organized as a table, with each row representing information about a particular order, and each column representing an attribute. This is the way a database table would be laid out, although this has a lot more columns than a typical database table. You can now join this table to one of the other tables by dragging one of the other tables onto the canvas. And you can select a different way to join these tables by clicking on the join icon. So I'm going to take the returns table and put it in here. Notice that the border is highlighted. When I do that, I get this join icon and a join menu if I click on the join icon. So I can do any of these kinds of joins. I don't want to do that right now. I'm not going to join any of these tables together immediately. I'm only going to work with the orders table. So remove the returns table. Okay, and then look at the preview of the data, and you can click on each name in order to rename it. So click on the icon pound sign next to row ID and change the data type from integer, which is listed as number whole, to string. Another thing you can do is break up a piece of data into its parts. So the order ID, for example, includes a 2-letter code for the distribution center. That's this column right here. Includes a 2-letter code for the distribution center, as well as 4 digits for the year and an integer for the product ID. So create a separate column for distribution center with the following steps. So first, click on the options triangle. choose Split, delete the Split 2 column, delete the Split 3 column, and rename the Split 1 column as Distribution Center. I just double-clicked there. And pressed Enter after I finished typing it in. Let's see, in the upper right corner, you can choose whether the connection to the spreadsheet is live, or if instead you extract the data in the spreadsheet into Tableau. So we're going to leave it live for now, but be aware that if you are connected to an enterprise database, you may reduce server load by extracting data and improve your own performance that way too. Okay, next we're going to go to the Tableau worksheet. So click on the Sheet 1 tab at the bottom of the screen that is conveniently has this Go to Worksheet thing associated with it. This is where you'll do the main work. So look at the parts of the screen. There's a ribbon at the top, so that's this menu along here. There's also a menu that you can't see above the top of the display here. I just couldn't fit everything. Well, I suppose I could have fit everything in, but I didn't. And the menu looks different depending on whether you're on a Mac or Windows. So, but this ribbon should look the same. So you've got this ribbon. And then we've got a data pane on the left. So this whole area here is a data pane. There's also hidden behind it an analytics pane that we're not going to look at yet. And let's see, the main workspace in the center, and a Show Me pane on the right, which wasn't turned on. I just turned it on. Above the main workspace and below the ribbon are two shelves, columns and rows. So this is a shelf, this is a shelf. The data pane contains two kinds of data. So there are dimensions, that's all of these things, and measures, that's all of these things. Dimensions are categorical data in the table, and measures are numeric data in the table. So let's create a data visualization next. Drag the word category from the dimensions part of the data pane to the rows shelf. So here's category, so I'm going to drag it to rows. So you should see 3 rows representing the categories in Sheet 1. Drag quantity from the measures part of the data pane to the columns shelf. You should see a sideways bar chart of quantity by category in Sheet 1. Drag segment from dimensions to rows. The bar chart expands with 3 segments per category: consumer, corporate, and home office. Drag market from dimensions to columns. I'm totally missing where there's market. And I'm dragging this one to columns, I think. Let me take a look here. Columns, yeah, so the bar chart expands into 7 smaller bar charts, 1 for each market. Drag market, again, this time from dimensions to color. Now each bar chart is colored according to its market. Okay, look around. So the items you dragged into the columns shelf and the rows shelf are called pills. So this is a pill, this is a pill, this is a pill, this is a pill. One of the pills is colored green. That's a measures pill. So it's continuous, from a more or less continuous distribution. And the blue pills come from a more or less categorical or discrete distribution. Now let's clear the sheet. So in the ribbon, select the clear sheet icon. That's this icon right here. It is a tiny bar chart partly covered by an X. So we got rid of everything. Now we're going to do a new visualization, and this is the start of actually a series of visualizations that we're going to do. So we're going to drag sales from measures into the left margin of sheet 1. So this is the left margin of sheet 1. So this is just another way to do things. In fact, this whole tutorial just illustrates different ways to do the same thing in many cases. So don't assume that the way that we do things is the only way to do them. I could have just as easily dragged sales up here, for instance. Okay, so this is a single bar chart showing that the sum of sales for the global superstore are about 12.6 million. Drag order date from dimensions into columns. So here's order date. We're going to drag that into columns. And now the bar chart automatically converts into a line chart showing sales over time and labeled by year. Okay, so we have 4 years here. If we click the plus symbol on the left of the year order date pill, the line chart expands into 4 line charts, one for each year, and aggregated at the quarter level. If we swap the positions of the 2 pills so that quarter is in front of year, the view will be changed so that each line chart shows 1 quarter over 4 years. So currently we're seeing each year separately. So watch what happens if we move this over here. Now we're seeing the 4 quarters as they've changed over the years. Okay, then drag the year pill out of columns and onto color. Now the years are in one stacked line chart. Next, click on the options triangle of the quarter pill. Click on month to expand the stacked line chart according to months. So let's see, it's currently quarter, so we're changing it to months. Click on the options triangle in the sum of sales pill. One of the choices there is measure sum. Click there and you can see some other choices of measures. Actually, you don't even have to click, just hover. Click on average to see how that will look. Then click on sum to return to the previous view, or you can click the undo button, which is this. Click on the options triangle of the sum sales pill again, and this time go to quick table calculations. And look at the submenu. Choose year-over-year growth. Well, that doesn't look good. The line chart changes. So I've messed up somewhere along the line here. This isn't the result that I expect to get. Let me undo that. Undo that. Undo that. So I think I should be there at the point when I do the quick table calculations. Nope. It's not what I was expecting to see either. Although it's very informative. It's very interesting to see the differences. Oh, I know. I somewhere along the line I tried to change this to month. There's what I was expecting to see. Okay, so let's see. Drag sales from the measures pane back into rows, and now you have 2 displays. Drag sales from measures into rows. And now you have 2 displays. Move the one that represents year-over-year growth into the tooltip. Okay, so that's this one that represents year-over-year growth, and I'm going to move it to tooltip. Now I just have one, but I have tooltips that tell me the year-over-year growth. Let's see. Drag category to the rows shelf. Now the line chart is split into 3 charts, one for each category. The peak for office supplies in August reflects the annual back to school sales. So let's annotate the chart with that. So that's office supplies, and here's the peak August. So I'm going to right-click there, not right on it, right near it, and choose annotate. Annotate area. And I'm going to write an annotation like this is our annual back to school sale. Okay, notice that the annotation is hiding part of the line. One thing I can do, I can choose formatting, and notice that a format menu appears over here, and I can reduce the shading. That'll make the can you see it change? No, you can't really see it changing. But when I do this, there's a shadow around it that's not very intense. The other thing I can do is just move it. You know, I can just physically move it off so that the letters are off. Oops, I put my cheat sheet on there unintentionally. By the way, I don't think I mentioned it before, but you know, I made this cheat sheet that's about let's see, 16 pages long to do this. So you can use this cheat sheet to go through this yourself. Now, of course, I've lost my place on it. Let's see. Okay, so actually this is everything that I was going to do with this sheet. Let's see. Yeah, this is everything. So I'm going to rename this. So if I double click on the title sheet 1, I can rename it to sales seasonality. And I just pressed enter after I did that. Okay, now I'm going to right click anywhere in the visualization. Oops, I guess I'm off the screen there. And choose copy data. You see copy data here? No. There we go, copy data. And I can open a copy of Excel and paste it into a new workbook, and it will include the year-over-year. So I just copied the data onto the system clipboard. We're not going to open Excel, though. Instead, what I'd like to do is right-click on the Sales Seasonality tab and say on the resulting menu, you can't see the whole menu, but one of the choices is duplicate as cross-tab. So that's what I've done, duplicate on cross-tab. And then I'm going to click on the on this little icon here, swap rows and columns. So now the months are the rows. Then I'm going to move the category from the columns shelf to the rows shelf. And then I'm going to click on where it says standard. This is actually the fit menu. Notice that if I hover over it, it says fit, although it says standard on the way the menu is marked by default. So I'm going to click on that and choose entire view, and that's going to make this take up the whole space. I may as well get rid of the show me menu while I'm at it. Just click on that. That's just a toggle. We're going to use that later. Now I'm going to drag profit from measures to color. And I'm still on this format pane here, so I'm just going to X that out. And what was it? I was going to drag profit to color. And let's see, the colors range from, oh, here we go. It's over here. The sum of the profit is orange if it's negative and blue if it's positive. We can make it look more like a traditional accountant's worksheet by changing the colors. So let's see, we can click color on the marks shelf, edit colors, and automatic chooses this very attractive orange and blue version. We can make it a very unattractive red-green diverging, and we'll make it stepped color with 6 steps and the full color range. And click OK. And now it looks more accountant-y. We can actually undo this. I'm going to undo this. And we can use a different way to emphasize profitability. So we're going to click on the options triangle for the marks shelf. And instead of automatic, which it is now, we're going to change it to square. So now all of the profit or loss numbers are just represented as colored squares, where the deepest blue represents the highest profit. Then click on Label on Marks and choose Show Mark Labels. So now we see the numbers associated with these colors. And you can change the colors back to red-green diverging if you want to, so it looks more like a traditional profit and loss display. In fact, I think I'm going to do that because in my cheat sheet I did that, so the pictures that you'll have look like that. So let me just say edit colors again, red-green diverging, stepped color, 6, full color range, okay. So, I don't like the way that looks, but it's more traditional. So I guess there's something good about it. Okay, so now let's rename this crosstab. Okay, now we're going to create a sheet to explore global sales and profits. So the crosstab worksheet shows that furniture is less successful than the other 2 categories in the fall, but it doesn't tell us, hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you really can. See how these 2 are more darkly colored than the top one? That should give you the sense that particularly in 2013 and 2014 that the other 2 are more successful. Anyway, it doesn't tell us where the problem lies. So let's use a new sheet to try to find out. So let's click on the new worksheet icon. That's this icon right here. And we're going to click on the Show Me tab and drag it over near Measures. And we can click on a measure and see what is suggested. What is the suggested type? And if we actually click on several of them, we may get a different suggested type. Most of them, it's giving a horizontal bar chart, isn't it? As the most preferred. type. Anyway, if we can command and control click on sales and country, so let's go with sales. And where's country? There's country. And if you're on Windows, control click. And now the preferred thing is a map. So let's select that and hope I'm on the network because it doesn't work correctly. Yes, I'm on the network. Okay, so if you do this and your machine is not on the network, you won't be able to draw the map from Tableau's website. I think this is one way Tableau has of checking up on you if you're using their software. See, you have to go to their site to get it, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe there's a completely benign reason. Could be just that maps take up a lot of room, so they don't want you to have to use up all the room on your machine, or some benign reason. I don't know. I'm paranoid. So let's see. We've got country and sales. None of the select that. You should see. Drag state onto the map. I'm going to just get rid of show me here. Drag state onto the map. Where's state? There it is. Now we'll see a lot more dots. So the term state is used rather loosely. So in some countries they call them provinces. Some countries they call them departments, counties. There are different, and some countries, like for example in the UK, they don't have the counties listed at all. It's just one big dot. Okay, so but in some countries they've broken things down into smaller regions. Drag the size slider on the marks shelf to increase the size of the dots. Okay, so that's the size slider on the marks shelf. No, that's not right. Where is the size slider? Oh, here it is. So I've made the dots bigger. Of course, that's a problem because they're not as easy to read. So I'm going to go to color and choose an opacity of 50%, and then it becomes a little bit easier to distinguish between the different dots. And I'm also going to add borders. Let's see. I'm going to make the border blue. Hopefully that's roughly the shade of blue that we've got there. And then what else am I going to do? There should be a size legend. So here's the size legend over here on the right side of the display. And I'm going to click on hide card there. And I'm going to drag profit to color. So let me find profit and drag that to color. And now you can see that I thought I changed the colors. Let me edit the color again. Is that right? Yeah, red, green, diverging. 6 steps, full color range. Okay, I definitely like the blue and orange better. You might want to leave it that way. I'm just doing this way because this is how I did the cheat sheet, and so there are occasional little pictures that in the cheat sheet that this will match. Okay, now search for United Arab Emirates using the magnifying glass. So here's United Arab Emirates right here. No, right here. There it is. So I'm going to search for it using this magnifying glass. I'm going to type in United Arab Emirates. This isn't very satisfying because there are only 2 dots on United Arab Emirates. There's 1 dot for Ajman and 1 dot for Ras Al Khaimah. I don't know how to pronounce that. And no dots for Abu Dhabi or Dubai for that matter. Um, so let's do one. So now I'm going to unpin to zoom back out. Let's choose one that has a red dot. Let's choose New Zealand here because it has a big fat red dot. So I'm going to search for New Zealand because I know Auckland has a red dot. And see, Wellington has a fairly large green dot. So there's a place where there's an issue with profitability. Of course, Texas has the biggest red dot of them all. We're number one. Okay, just kidding. Drag the category to the filter shelf. Drag category to, okay, so this is the filter shelf. And I'm going to drag category over here. And I'm going to choose furniture. And click OK. Now the map is restricted to showing profitability and sales of furniture. And the color of the circles represents profit, and the size of the circle represents sales. So we see that increasing sales doesn't always increase profit. An important lesson. Right-click the category Furniture pill and choose Show Filter on the resulting menu. Okay, so the filter showed up over here. Now anyone viewing the visualization can choose a category or categories of interest, but we're going to restrict the viewer's choice by clicking the options triangle on the, I think this is the options triangle, on the category filter. And currently we should see that multiple values is selected. And instead we're going to change that to single value list. So now a viewer can only choose one category at a time. And we're going to rename this sheet Global Sales and Profits. I'm going to change that to an ampersand just to make it fit better. Global Sales and Profits, okay. Now we're going to click on New Worksheet to create a new worksheet. Furniture is doing poorly, but what types of furniture are dragging the category down? One way to find out is to explore the subcategories under the furniture category. So let's try the Show Me method again. So we're going to click on Show Me, and we're going to try category, subcategory, since I can see that. Category, subcategory, and sales. And this was control clicking for Windows or command clicking for Mac. And Show Me is suggesting horizontal bars, so that's what I'm going to choose, horizontal bars. And I'm going to close the Show Me pane. Now you know that there is a hierarchical relationship between category and subcategory, and Tableau has a way of expressing that relationship in a way that you can drill down from the more general to the more specific. And this technique is to drag and drop columns on top of each other in the data window. So drag subcategory on top of category. Or I should say the data pane. And this creates a hierarchy, and we're going to call this hierarchy something. No, not something. We're going to call it products. So now it appears in dimensions as products with category and subcategory underneath it. And we should be able to, yeah, open it or close it. And there are also now pluses and minuses that we can expand or contract in here. So let's make sure that both category and subcategory are visible. Swap the axes. So we're going to use the same swap the axis item in the ribbon. And the fit button is marked standard now. We're going to change that to entire view. So it takes up the whole space. And click on the category pill and click sort descending. So we have sort descending. Oh, I could have clicked this in the ribbon, actually. But let me do that. This is not what I wanted. Why isn't this working? Should I have gone to subcategory? There we go. That's what I want. Okay. So now technology is on the left. That's our biggest seller. And everything in there is sorted in descending order. There's a little tiny bar chart which is visible only when you hover here, this little tiny bar chart next to sales, and I can use that to change the sort order also. Click the show mark labels in the ribbon. That's marked with a T, that's this right here, and that puts a label on each bar. And then I'm going to unclick it to hide them. I'm going to drag profit to color. There's profit. Drag that to color. And now I can see that tables are a really significant drag on profit. Remember, for some reason this seems to be reverting to automatic every time. The color seems to revert to automatic. So this is the most profitable category. It's the darkest blue. And this is the least profitable category, being the brightest orange, as you can see on this legend over here. Okay, then let's see. Tables are a significant profit problem despite their sales volume. Drag market to the left of sheet 4. A dashed vertical line should appear. Where's market? It's around here. Oh, here's market. So a dashed vertical line appears. If I release the mouse now, I get a bunch of bar charts, one for each market. So we have Africa, APAC, Canada, EMEA, EU, Latin America, and US as our markets. And what you can see is that table profitability is a problem in 4 of the 7 markets. Let's group some of these columns together. The columns over here, except for the first 3. The first 3 are substantial. So I'm going to shift-click all of the remaining ones. And then I'm going to say group members. Can I do that here? Yeah, group members. And then I can right-click on this, and unfortunately you can't see the whole menu here, but one of the items that's hidden down below here is edit alias. So I'm going to say edit alias, and I'm going to call these small office supplies. Okay, then what am I going to do? Let's see, simplify the view, swap the axes, change fit to standard. So let's swap the axes again. Change fit to standard. Remove market from the columns shelf. And hide the field labels for category and subcategory by right-clicking on either of them and selecting hide field labels. Which I don't see here. Oh, is it because I'm No, I just don't see it. What am I doing wrong here? The field labels for category. Clicking in, selecting hide field labels for rows. Could it be there? No. You know, I'm completely at a loss for how I did this before. Oh, that. God. Okay, I got it. I had field labels for rows, so I need to do it down here. That's all I'm doing is making it look a little better. Then I'm going to rename this sales by category. By the way, I could also notice when I change sheet 4 down here, it's going to change up here. I could also rename it up there and it would change down here, I think. Yes. Okay, now I'd like to have a hunch that the low profitability in furniture is related to shipping costs. So suppose that you have that hunch. Now let's create a new sheet to explore that possibility. So let's select a new worksheet. Let's drag profit to the rows shelf. Drag shipping cost to the columns. Drag market onto the shape shelf. So those are shapes for dots. That's giving me different symbols for each mark. Then drag category onto the color shelf. And now this is going to make a real mess. Drag customer ID onto the detail shelf. There's customer ID. So this is going to give me a dot for each customer. So that's a lot of dots. Tableau makes a mark for each customer shaped by market and colored by category. There actually may be more than one mark per customer if a customer is ordered from more than one category or in more than one market. Each mark represents the sum of profit and shipping cost. So shipping cost along this axis, profit along this axis. So this is 0. So we're doing a lot of stuff that's not profitable here. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing has very high shipping costs associated with it. Now let's see, click on the analysis menu. So we've been, oh no, this is the analysis menu. So this is actually off the screen for you. On a Mac, this will be at the top of the physical display. In Windows, it'll be on top of the window. So we click on that, and aggregate measures is checked. I think that's at the very limit of what you can see here. So uncheck it. And now there's a single mark for each transaction. So every transaction, so these were all, so we had some unprofitable customers, I guess we would say before. Now we're looking at unprofitable transactions below this horizontal line. On the marked shelf, click to the left of the customer ID and select label. Now there's a label for every customer. Every customer ID labels each point. So we can go back and select that again. What was it? Customer ID. Go back to detail. Or you could just click undo. Another way to label is to drag something onto the label. For example, drag sales onto the label shelf. So it's telling us the amount of each of these sales, which is different from the amount of profit and different from the amount of shipping costs. Click the label shelf and click the 3 dots next to text. That's these 3 dots right here. The ellipsis. Oh, and here we're going to put a $sign in front of sales. So notice that sales are just a number right now. I'm going to change that to a dollar amount. So now it displays as dollar amounts. Let's add trend line. Switch from the data pane on the left to the analytics pane. And on the analytics pane, I'm going to choose a trend line, which I can't. Oh, here it is. Choose trend line and drag it onto sheet 5. And I've got a choice. It's going to be either linear, logarithmic, exponential, polynomial, or power. And I'm going to go with linear. So there are 3 trend lines now, 1 for each category. And the furniture line shows that profits rise less with shipping costs than do the profits in the other 2 categories. So the other 2 categories are office supplies, that's the top one. The middle one is technology, and the lowest one, blue one, is furniture. Oh, and look at that, it's giving us an R² value and a P value. So this is this trend line is a least squares line. So that's giving us a regression equation also for what constitutes profit. Okay, so again, I've lost my place. Look at the mark for one of the low profit, high shipping cost transactions. A tooltip appears. And a spider appears on my arm. Okay, click on full. That was more information than you needed to know about me, I'm sure. Let's see. It just shows how long I've been sitting still that a spider actually thought I was worth climbing onto and weaving a web on. Click on the point, a menu appears. View data. And select full data on here. And there's a lot of data about this that you can examine at your leisure, and then just get rid of it. Remove sales from the marks shelf. Numbers vanish. Right-click in sheet 5 and uncheck Show Trend Lines. The trend lines vanish. Call this sheet Customer Breakdown. Compile a dashboard to share. Okay, so now we're getting close to the end here. We're going to do a couple more things here. We're going to create a dashboard, which is the Tableau way to share multiple views of data. You can integrate each of the sheets you've created into a single dashboard to tell a story of data exploration. So we're going to click on the new dashboard icon, which is, I think, this one, yes. And click on the options triangle beside size. And I'm going to choose, it says in my cheat sheet to choose laptop browser. So you may want to do that depending on the size of your display. I'm going to choose story because this display is big enough to handle it. Actually, it's big enough to handle a lot more than that, but I'm exporting this video at 1080p, so it's big enough for that. Notice that all the sheets that you created are listed on the left here, and that if you hover over them, you can preview each sheet. So it should be clear what each one of these is going to give you as part of the dashboard. Okay, so we're going to drag, first we're going to drag global sales and profits onto the dashboard. And here, once again, you're going to have to be on the network or this map isn't going to appear. I don't know why that is. The map, there are going to be 3 opportunities for the map to not appear. And I know only because I frequently am disconnected from the network, and it's kind of annoying. There is an offline map view option, by the way, and I don't know how it works or if it works. Okay, so I've got global sales. Okay, now I'm going to drag sales by category into the bottom half. So notice when I put this over, 1/2 is shown. When I bring it down here, the bottom half is highlighted. So there I've put it in the bottom half. And then I'm going to drag customer breakdown into the bottom right quadrant. So notice now I can divide it. So, and in each of these cases, I want this to fill the available space. So this should say entire view, I think. Do I want that? Yeah, entire view. And over here, this one was standard, so I'm going to say entire view. There we go. Alrighty then. Let's see. Right-click on the dashboard tab and rename it Sales Dashboard. Add the name to the dashboard itself by clicking the Show Dashboard Title in the lower left-hand corner. So that's this over here. And then I'm going to reformat it. I think I just double-click it. Yeah. And I'm going to change its size to 16, and I'm going to change it to centered, and just leave it like that. And click OK to accept changes. I did that. Click on the category menu in the upper right to change the map. Suppose that you want all 3 visualizations to change. So that's what I want. I want all 3 visualizations to change when I click on the map. So what I'm going to do is right-click on the category panel. No, that's not what I want. More options. Here we go. Apply to worksheets, all using this data source. Okay, good. Now, when I change this, good. Okay. All 3 visualizations change according to the selection. Click on the red mark over Auckland, New Zealand. Suppose you would like to know more about that state. Is that really a state? It's a city, as far as I know, but maybe it's a state as well. And a very interesting city, by the way. One of the few foreign capitals I've visited. On the Maps tab, choose More Options. From the menu, choose Use as Filter. Now you can click any circle. Okay, so on the Maps tab, choose More Options. That's here, okay? And from the menu, choose Use as Filter. Now you can click on any circle on the map and see the related info in the other 2 visualizations. Or not click anywhere and see the summary. I mean, I don't mean not click anywhere. Click on something that's not a dot. Click in the middle of the ocean. Okay, now the last thing that we're going to do is create story points. So another way to view visualizations is through what Tableau calls story points. This consists of a navigator bar over a series of visualizations. This is roughly equivalent to a powerless point presentation, except that it's done entirely in Tableau rather than exporting individual Tableau visualizations to a presentation software. So if we click on the navigator bar, you step through the story points, capturing each visualization at a specific point. So let's click on the new story icon. It's this. Change the size to laptop browser. I'm going to leave it at story size. It's still not going to work right. I'm still going to have to make some changes, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Drag global sales and profits into the view. So that's going to be what we start off with. And we're going to add a caption to that. See where it says add a caption, and it's going to say overall our profits look strong. Note that the visualization is still interactive, so we can test that by selecting categories. Click on Furniture on the category panel. And notice that a little menu appears above here. So I'm going to click on Save as New. I think that's this right here. Yeah. So now I've got a separate, so see I can go back here and I've got all. I go over here and I've got furniture. And I'm going to add a new caption here that says, but not across all categories. And I'm going to add a text rectangle here. Again, in the middle of the ocean. Gee, we have terrible sales in Antarctica. And it's going to say furniture appears to have poor profitability in some areas. And I'm going to resize this text to 12. And move it down here. Okay, double click on sales by category to create a third story point. So, is this updated? Okay. So double click on, what is it, sales by category. Now we have a third story point, and I'm going to add the caption. Here's the biggest problem. Again, add a call out with the drag to add text panel. I'm going to add a text box here that's going to say tables are dragging down furniture's profits. And more or less center that, I guess. And then I'm going to drag the sales dashboard to the right of the list of captions and add it as a fourth story point. What is that? The sales dashboard. So if I bring it over here, notice that there's a place I can stick it in between here. I'm going to stick it over here. There's another story point. And it doesn't fit very well. So I'm going to click on the Go to Sheet icon. I think this is the Go to Sheet icon, yeah. And over here, I'm going to change its how do I resize it? I've completely forgotten how to resize this. Oh, over here. Okay, so instead of having a fixed size, no, I'm going to leave it a fixed size, but I'm just going to be fit to story. There we go. Okay, now I'm back in the story 1 window, and it fits better. Oh, I also want to take off this title. Let me go back here to the sales dashboard and get rid of this title. And then go back to story 1. Okay, now we're better. And I'm going to add a caption. What's behind it? Next steps. What's behind it? And click on furniture and select update. So that this is what will appear. And double click on story 1 and rename it to profitability, the whole story. Okay, so that's that. Now that you've completed an exercise using Tableau, your next step should be to reflect on what you've done. Well, let's actually, before we do that, let's just step through this. It's tempting to go into presentation mode. So there's a presentation mode here. That will take us into full screen though. And full screen for my machine is larger than the size of this video. And you also can't see the button for taking it out of full screen and all the little control buttons that are off in the corner for controlling the presentation. But basically, you know, the presentation is one after the other. And there's a little control. I'm just clicking on these, but in the presentation mode, there's a little control thing that makes it look better and allows you to have better transitions and so on. So it looks more like a presentation. So anyway, that's it. That's the end of the exercise itself. Now I want you to do two things. The first one is to think about this. The second one is to do one of your own. So your assignment's going to be to get a data set and create your own story points and prepare your own presentation. So the discussion questions are these. The menu structure of Tableau changes drastically from one version to the next. I don't know if drastically is the right word, but can you navigate this tutorial in the next or previous version of Tableau? And the answer to that is, you know, you have to try it and find out. Menu-driven applications are problematic. We're going to spend most of this term using a command-driven application, which is the R programming language. So this problem of a menu-driven system isn't going to be as significant to us as it might be if we, say, use Tableau for the whole semester. Different chart types are recommended for different types of data. How would you characterize these chart types? What is it about the data that leads to the recommendations? And here you have to go to the Show Me panel and just explore and see what kinds of recommendations you get, and then look at the raw data and see what it is that's led you to those recommendations. Number 3 is Tableau biased in any way? Is it easier to make some kinds of arguments with Tableau than others? And the answer to that is, yeah, absolutely. Think about it. Tableau relies on measurements, so therefore what is easy to measure is going to be easy to make arguments about. And some things are intrinsically harder to measure than others. And there are different reasons for that you might want to explore. So one reason is opinions. Not everyone will agree on what is measurable. Take love, for example. Each person has their own definition and their own measurement of what that means. Another example is time. A lot of the things that we want to measure are events either in the future or events that change very rapidly so that it's difficult to measure them, or that have some other time-related aspect that make them difficult to measure. So back in the, I think, 1700s, some famous measurer named Lord Kelvin said that if it's not worth, if you can't measure it, it's not worth talking about, or something like that, which you have to think about that, and you have to think about, whether you agree with that. Hopefully you don't agree with it, but the respect in which you don't agree with it will sort of guide how you think about applications that do data visualization. Okay, number 4, Tableau accepts live data and allows you to connect to your visualization to live changing data. So suppose the point you're trying to make is no longer supported by data in the future. Will you be blamed for that change? Well, you would like to think not, but that's not necessarily the case. So, and I speak from bitter experience about that when you give somebody a tool and it seems to be supporting what you're saying now, but then conditions change in the future, you may still be associated with that tool. That's a potential source of trouble, and a potentially really big source of trouble too. Don't minimize that. Tableau makes a lot of default choices that you change. Do you think that it could or should learn your preferences over time? What would it take to do that? This is another area that you can explore a lot, that you can think about what it would take to learn preferences, and what there of course are privacy issues involved in whether it should learn your preferences. Should it report back to the mothership? Should it see how other people are using Tableau, and so on? And then finally, the big question: what is a data visualization? What would you have to subtract from these pictures so that they could not be called data visualizations? That's a big question, and something that we're going to think about over the course of the semester. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I look forward to our next meeting.